Welcome to the Happy Home Birth Podcast, your source for positive natural childbirth stories and your community of support, education, and encouragement in all things home birth and motherhood. The pelvic floor. Can you truly heal it and restore function? Or is there a point where you're beyond help? Hey there, happy home birthers, and welcome to episode 282 of the Happy Home Birth Podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Fusco, and this week we are speaking with Paris Latka. Oh my goodness, Paris is the best. She has been involved in the practice of Bowspring since 2016, and this transformative movement system has deeply reshaped both her body and her life. Teaching for the past 6 years, she shares this work from a place of embodied passion and reverence for its healing power. Bowspring continually amazes Paris with its ability to restore, to balance, to uplift the spirit, and invite joy into our everyday lives. It supports healing from the inside out and opens the doors to a more optimistic, radiant way of being in life. Paris will be sharing more with us about this practice and specifically its amazing relationship with the pelvic floor. And I don't want to spoil the fun, but I do want to let you know that Paris's new Bowspring course, Pelvic Floor Freedom, now has open doors. You're going to hear all about this in today's episode, but I want to share with you up front that from now, June 30th, 2025, until July 14th, doors are open to join the live experience. I have already signed up and will be attending the course with you if you go through it this round. I cannot wait to see the results. We all are going to get together, and I can't wait to do the live classes with all who join. Okay, let's waste no time and dive into this amazing episode. Please remember that the opinions of my guest may not necessarily reflect my own and vice versa. And this show is not medical advice, it's an educational tool. So continue to take empowered responsibility for your health and your family. Paris, my dear, darling friend, I am just so overwhelmed with joy to have you back on the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Caitlin, it is such a joy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm thrilled to. It is so much fun talking to you, whether we're talking on Instagram, whether we're on a podcast together. It's amazing, but definitely having this opportunity for a more long form conversation about what you are doing just really just thrills my soul. So I am so excited, and I would love if you wouldn't mind. I know this isn't our first conversation together. We've done a podcast episode, but it's been a while. So for some people, this is going to be a brand new introduction to you and to our topic. So, would you mind just starting by introducing yourself to the listeners?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm really honored to be here. And my name is Paris Latka, and I live in Colorado. I am sort of a geek about all things health and wellness and how to really optimize our experience in our lives and live a fulfilling existence. And so, a lot of that specifically is located around mind body connection, movement therapy, nutrition therapy. I'm a myofascial release body worker. And it's my greatest joy to support people feeling really connected to their bodies and open in their hearts and gaining clarity and wisdom from our bodies. So, yeah, more specifically, I guess, I'm a certified Bowspring instructor. Bowspring is a movement therapy that I'm sure we'll get into later, but it's really changed my life and changed my relationship to my body and what is possible in my world. And that's what it is that's like kind of my main squeeze, what it is that I share with the world. And yeah.
That is beautiful. And I would love for us to talk about what Bowspring is. And right before we do that, would you kind of tell us your journey of what it was like before Bowspring and then how you found it and how it's kind of rocked your world?
Yeah, totally. So I met Bowspring in 2016, so almost 10 years ago. Crazy. And prior to that, there was a pre Bowspring era of my life and then present Bowspring. And prior to that, I have felt really disconnected from my body and kind of at war with my body, always trying to fit my body into a smaller frame, into just being smaller, trying to lose weight. So much of my life force was focused in that direction. So, lots of different periods of eating disorders, a really big bout of polycystic ovarian syndrome. I found yoga, and that was a huge grace and gift to me. And it gave me the understanding that I could move my body in a way that actually brought me joy. Prior to that, I was very reluctant to go to the gym, but would like drag myself to these exercise classes. And I would just like, I would feel good from doing them. However, it just didn't bring me any joy. And so getting myself to move was very challenging. I really hated moving. I hated exercising. And so yoga was really wonderful. It brought that into my world that I could move with intention and like I could feel really good. And after 8 years of practicing yoga very consistently, I started to develop so much pain in my body. And this was very confusing to me. I sort of felt betrayed. I didn't know why I was experiencing so much pain, mostly in my neck and in my lower back and my elbows. And so much in my neck, like every 2 or 3 months, I would get like a neck freeze where I couldn't move my head past just a couple of inches in each direction and would have to invest in a lot of chiropractic care, massage therapy. It was just really expensive and very debilitating. And so a friend of mine introduced me to Bowspring and it rocked my world. It flipped everything that I thought that I knew upside down. So at that time, I was not only practicing yoga very consistently, but I was teaching. It was my livelihood. I was living in Boulder, Colorado, the mecca, one of the mecca, of the West for yoga, and nobody could help me understand why the pain was occurring. So I was going to a lot of yoga therapists, like, let's use yoga to solve this. And I would get temporary bouts of relief, but nothing long term. So when I met Bowspring, Bowspring is the alignment is almost completely opposite of modern postural yoga. And it was very humbling because at that point, I mean, I was a woman who knew her stuff with yoga and invested thousands of dollars with these ideas and to understand these ideas more. And so being introduced to something that was completely opposite and counter this was like, huh? And so it really triggered me both physically because it's so different and my body was used to the modern postural yoga pattern, and it triggered me emotionally because it was like, what did I what have I just in how, was all of this just a wash? Was this just kind of wasted? And then my ego being like, no, because so much of my identity was wrapped around yoga. I couldn't deny how good I felt after these Bowspring classes. Though I felt like physically, though in the class it was triggering to my body because it was so different and it was showing me how weak I was because Bowspring is really a master at pointing out all of the places in our body that are asleep and hitching a free ride on just the muscles that are overworking as a result of the places that are asleep. And so after those, my initial few classes, like though I had these kind of triggers, uncomfortable, ooh, I'm feeling weak, I felt so amazing after these classes. And I'm so grateful to my spirit that was inviting me to move forward with curiosity to understand more about this practice and to continue practicing and not let my ego yoga identity kind of get in the way of that because it really did a service to me in transforming the pain. Thankfully, I'm so grateful that I have no pain in my body now. And it has just elevated my spirit and it's elevated my confidence and the clarity that I experience in my body. And it's been totally transformative.
Wow. I think really just camping out here for a second on this idea of you are saying that you had pain. You had like these chronic bouts of deep pain. and now you don't. Like
Yeah.
that's somebody needs to just hear that. Like let that sink into your body because that's huge, Paris. That's wild to me. That must have been such a freeing thing, and I can even picture some people having this experience where they're just so in the process of having pain, and then maybe they do decide to start Bowspring, and then it's like the pain goes away. It might even take you a second to be like, wait a minute, like I'm not feeling this thing anymore. Like what when did this happen? Like I
Hmm.
just the elatement that must come from
Hmm.
realizing your body can heal and your
Hmm.
body can be just generally pain free when you've come from a place of pain. That's got to be such a wild feeling.
Oh my God. It is so incredibly expansive. And also through the process, through my journey as a myofascial release body worker and sharing Bowspring with the world and going through my own experience with healing chronic pain, it's also like understanding that pain is not the enemy, and pain is not just something to get rid of and to like, okay, push away, like, all right, because that's pretty much our orientation in the West with pain, is to numb it, is to try and get away from it as fast as possible because pain is scary.
Hmm.
It's scary and it's
Hmm.
hard
And it
and it's
hurts.
uncomfortable and it hurts, right? That's the nature of pain. And
Right.
when we can like turn towards it and understand that it's a messenger and it's trying to tell us something about ourselves and our life that is maybe not in alignment, it can be our greatest teacher.
Mm.
So the pain was telling me that I was positioning my body in a way that was not serving its highest. I was trying to flatten my neck, draw the shoulders on the back, tucking the pelvis, and my body was like, doing that for 7 years, 5 days a week. It was like, no, no, this is not the ideal position for you. And so I think that is a huge understanding and undertaking to just like the pain that we are experiencing. If we can get curious about it and interact with it more, rather than just trying to shut it out, shut it up, and numb it, we can be greatly served.
Wow. That's so beautiful. And once again, taking that idea of hopelessness out of it. Like I have this pain and there's nothing I can do about it to I have this pain. I wonder why I have this pain. I
Yeah,
wonder what I can do about this pain. I wonder what I can be called into. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened with you with Bowspring.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's incredible. And I love talking about Bowspring as a whole. I mean, it's just
Hmm.
I mean, we could talk about so many different aspects of how this is a healing modality to our nervous systems, to our, yes, our posture. But really, what I'm excited about talking about today is Bowspring in relationship with the pelvic floor. So we've kind of talked about Bowspring as opposite yoga. It's like similar to yoga, but it's actually really different in terms of posture. So we're going to jump into this pelvic floor topic. Oh my goodness, Paris. It feels like pelvic floor problems are an epidemic and they're discussed a lot. Like I will say I hear people talking about the pelvic floor so much now. Like we are at a place where we realize something's very wrong. Like there are problems. I'm leaking. I'm like I can't sneeze without peeing myself or like it my body feels heavy, like my pelvis feels heavy, so many different things. And of course, pregnancy itself and then giving birth and being in that postpartum phase can really exacerbate anything that you had going on before that you may not have been aware of. So, what I am really curious to hear about right now is um, Bowspring in relation to the pelvic floor. You have told me that Bowspring is effective at healing pelvic floor imbalance. How is that so?
Yeah, totally. So I'll just share what Bowspring is for those who are listening that are brand new to this conversation of Bowspring, and then share a little bit more specifically with the balance piece for pelvic floor. And So Bowspring, it's this revolutionary postural and movement method that does such a great job at reawakening the natural spring in our bodies and the natural curvature of our bodies, especially through the spine, the hips, the rib cage, and every joint. And so, like unlike traditional fitness, Pilates, yoga, these practices are often promoting and emphasizing like a tucked pelvis. So, like that's when it's scooping under and you're tucking the tail, a flat back, drawing the shoulders on the back, and trying to lengthen the spine by straightening the spine. And actually, we are able to experience so much more length in the spine when we're connected with the natural curves of the spine. So, Bowspring, it invites this dynamic and open and buoyant posture that it emphasizes, expansion and lightness and balanced tension through the whole body. Why it's so healing is because it cultivates this whole body engagement, and especially like this strong focus with the back body, the glutes and the hamstrings and the feet. And when we enliven our body inside of this spring and inside of the curves, it just creates this elasticity. And when our tissue is more elastic, we move with more freedom. And we feel this incredible support from the inside out, support and strength from the inside out. So it's super primal. It's a fluid posture that really increases strength and heals pain and unlocks stored tension. And it just really invites us into an ability to be more present in life and in with ourselves. So while it is that this conversation is focusing more on the pelvic floor and how Bowspring supports pelvic floor health, it's so valuable to know that it's a full body practice and that we use the pelvic floor issues as the doorway to transformation. So it's like, oh, not only do we get to heal our pelvic floor through this, but really we get to improve our posture, which posture impacts everything, impacts our interpretation of life and our perception of experiences. Yeah, that's a little bit about what Bowspring is. It's just this phenomenal movement practice, and it is very effective at balancing pelvic floor, just balancing the pelvic floor.
Mhm. Yeah, I love how you said that too, because yes, it is balancing the pelvic floor. Also, like, it's balancing globally. So, of
Mhm.
course it's balancing the pelvic floor because it's balancing everything. So
Yes.
that's such a beautiful way to put that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man, and the way that you describe it just resonates so deeply. It is something that you said earlier was the parts of you that were asleep.
Mhm.
I relate so much to that. When I started doing bowspring for the first time, practicing it for the first time, I just remember that tension of like, what am I doing? Like, I don't really know how to do this. I don't really know how to move this way. And unlocking the fact that, oh, it's because this has been asleep. Like,
Mm.
this
Mhm.
muscle has not had the opportunity to move like this before.
Mhm.
This my entire body hasn't had this opportunity. And I remember I've always thought like, oh, I'm not very I don't have rhythm. And
Mm.
then after I did your first course that I went through, I remember being like, "Oh my gosh, I have rhythm now." Like
Oh, you
I
do
can move
this.
I can move my body and I don't feel like a crazy board. Like I can actually feel these different parts of my body. So just as a bowspring as a whole, I wanted to add that. And when you talked about being your parts being asleep, that is absolutely just that just completely resonates with the experience that I've had.
Totally. Well, you're certainly not alone in your sleepy muscles. Most of us are walking around very asleep in our bodies and very disconnected. And so, what Bowspring is such a pro at is it helps to wake up the sleepy muscles and encourage them to be awake and to be
Mm.
participating and to start fulfilling their role that they're designed to fulfill. And then we give permission to the muscles that are overworking, doing the job of the muscles that are asleep to back off And so now they don't have to be over engaged, and these muscles that are asleep can now engage. And as a result, there's just so much more harmony and stronger, more efficient communication happening in the body as a result of everybody showing up to participate.
And something that I feel that I've noticed is that it is not just a physical experience. Something about that balance in our bodies of
Mhm.
allowing things to be the way that they really truly are designed to be and to
Mhm.
function the way that they're designed to function allows our spirit to settle into our body in a way deeper, way more profound way. I feel like I came into my body more fully somehow when I started practicing Bowspring. Like my essence, like the fullness of Caitlin grew and like went down into my pinky toes. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I just started filling up every piece of space inside of my body.
We're like occupying ourselves then.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, I'm here. Every
Mm.
square inch, centimeter, we invite the remembrance of life force.
Mm.
It's there all along. It just becomes
Yeah.
very deflated and dense if we forget and we forget and we forget. And we're just operating from these patterns of how it is that we've known to move our body. And so when we start to awaken our muscles and to expand our myofascia, then literally that is the awakening.
Mm.
It's we become more awake inside of ourselves and way more connected to ourself as a whole. And I think that, and I think this is part of the conversation where I get really emotional, because I think that this is medicine that is needed now more than ever. And we're able to hear God more clearly. We're able to feel Christ consciousness more abundantly when we're in an awakened posture versus a closed posture where so many of our muscles are asleep and they're just weakened and they haven't been getting blood flow, they haven't been getting energy, oxygen, they've been hardened. And so it's really a beautiful time to, if we're asking like the world to awaken, and we want to see this awakening, like we have to participate. And the best way to participate right now is start waking up our physical forms and feeling the spirit of God circulate within, because God is always present. It's just whether or not we can feel the spirit of God.
That's beautiful, Paris. Wow. That's so amazing. And exciting when I think about, being able to be that as a mom, like my
Yes.
kids getting to experience this greater version of myself that is awake and thriving. And okay, well, if that's what they see, then that's what they will embody. And so that's incredible. Just, oh my goodness, we could talk about so many things all day. I just love this so much and I love talking to you in particular. So we have this as our foundation. And
Mhm.
now we can talk a little bit more about this idea of pelvic floor imbalances and how Bowspring is related to those. Why, Paris? Like, why do you think this practice in particular is so effective at healing those pelvic floor imbalances?
Great question. So I like to look at the imbalances as a spectrum. We have hypertonic pelvic floor over here, and this is where the muscles are so contracted, they're hardened, they are freaking tight. Then the opposite side of the spectrum is prolapse. And those muscles are really weak, and there's a lot of heaviness in the pelvic floor. And interestingly enough, in the prolapse conversation, there are still muscles that are really, really tight, because there is a nervous system connection to every part in our body, but especially at the pelvic floor, because this is such a prime spot for life. I mean, there's so much freaking action happening here. It's the base of our spine, it's where it is that creation is intermingling, it's where it is that we're releasing and excreting waste from our bodies. There's so many nerve endings, especially for women in this, I mean, for men and women, but women have so many more nerve endings in the clitoris. Like there's just so much happening here. And when the nervous system is experiencing any sort of disconnect, like in the prolapse on this that spectrum, if it feels like there's the insides that are falling out of the body, the nervous system is going to recruit any single muscle to help strengthen and to grip and to support those organs from staying where it is that they're meant to stay. So even in the prolapse, there are some tight muscles. However, there is that tendency to feel that dropping heaviness and density at the base of the pelvic floor. In the middle of this spectrum is dynamic balance. The pelvic floor, it's not too tight, it's not too loose or weak. It's just holding this dynamic presence. And with that, there is this natural spring that is present. It can move. The tissue is alive. It's connected to our breath, interestingly. When we inhale it, we can feel it expand. When we exhale, we can feel it contract a little bit. The whole body moves with this natural spring. And in both scenarios of hypertonic pelvic floor and prolapse, we've lost the spring. So, I mean, like, even if you just make a fist, like, and this is hypertonic, like, there's no spring. It's inhibiting blood flow. There's not a lot of life there. Here, with an open palm, would represent prolapse. Like, there's no spring. There's no life force. And so it's about coming back to center to cultivate the body's natural inherent spring. When there's a spring, there's blood flow. When there's blood flow, our tissue is getting nutrients. When our tissue is getting nutrients, it's hydrated. It's pumping energy. So Bowspring is really effective because it helps to meet in that dynamic neutral space for all pelvic floor conditions. We, in the conventional conversations that are happening around pelvic floor issues, they're pretty much locating it to the pelvic floor.
Mhm.
And it's a full body happening. And I also think that a lot of the root causes aren't being addressed. And many women are struggling in their pelvic floor health because it's like the base of our spine, our hips, our yoni area, the anus, like prime real estate. And it's also energetically like where we're feeling grounded, where we're feeling safe in our bodies, where we're feeling safe to express ourselves in our lives. And many women, because of trauma or because of whatever kind of experience that had in life, like are not feeling safe and connected to their bodies. They're not feeling grounded. And it is really inhibiting this connection with the pelvic floor. So
Mm.
Bowspring is really effective for a myriad of ways, but one thing, it helps us to come into contact with our bodies and create a relationship of safety and of trust.
Wow.
And that is the first and foremost, because if we don't have that, we're always going to be gripping, we're always going to be releasing too much. And so, like, coming into safety and into connection is really, really powerful, and feeling grounded in our sense of well being and developing a relationship of like, I'm home here. Like, this is a part of my home. And so as that is plugged into, then we can start to awaken our physical form. And the bowspring is, it's connected to the natural curves of the spine. And when we're connected to the ribs and we're filling and lifting and expanding the ribs, then we can give permission to the hips to open and to broaden, because that's their natural shape. They are wide, especially on women. And so we want them to be spherical and wide. And then we start to awaken the tone and to bring more, recruit the muscles that have been asleep. People's butts are gravely asleep, and it is dragging us down. And so if we can get the glutes on board in the direction that they're really designed to be activated, which is an up and out rather than squeezing down and in, which is taught in most modalities, which makes Bowspring very unique. If we can lift them in their up and out direction, then that engagement starts to really bring so much blood flow into the pelvic floor and start to restore a deeper strength and balance. I know that's a lot. I know it's a lot. But yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful in Paris. One of the things that I keep thinking about is when you discussed safety. So, what happens when we feel unsafe? We brace, we clinch. Like,
Yeah.
no wonder we've got these tight pelvic floors or these pelvic floors that can't find balance. If we're feeling unsafe consistently, we're going to be clinching. We're going to be pulling downward, like you said, where these glutes are. It's a travesty. They're pulling
Mhm.
down and they're clinching in. Another thing that I did want to mention really briefly is once you have learned bowspring, even if you aren't practicing consistently, I will say that there have been some times in the last 2 years since having my baby that I have not been consistent. And if I've gone to do some other type of exercise and I hear them saying, like the cue that they're giving is so contradictory to what I've learned in Bowspring, it's just like, I can't do that. Sorry. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't clinch. I'm not going to clinch. I'm not going to clinch at the top. That's not happening
Mhm.
to me.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
so it is something that once you experience it, you really feel it in your body. And it's just it feels so intuitive at that point of like, oh no, that's not how those muscles are supposed to work. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's really incredible.
It is really incredible. I
Oh
totally
man.
agree.
Okay. So we have talked about this wildly different approach in terms of pelvic floor imbalances. We've talked about the fact that pelvic floor imbalances are incredibly prevalent, but why are they so prevalent, Paris? Do you have ideas on exactly what's going on with that?
hmm I have some ideas. And I think, as I had mentioned earlier, kind of the emotional and energetics around not feeling safe, not feeling connected, feeling let down constantly. That's one that I see a lot in prolapse, interestingly, like the let down and like our body
Mm.
responding to that, like downward. Um, and then, so that is more energetic, emotional. And then physiologically, I mean, we're shaping ourselves mostly into a C curve, a rounded posture where the front ribs are dropping. And even if it's just like a degree and then our glutes aren't engaged, we are literally creating a downward pressure of energy through our organs and with our breath. And it's just going one direction, which is down. And so posture plays a huge role. I think childbirth and childbirth trauma. I mean, a lot of women struggle with postpartum and with pelvic floor prolapse, and it's interesting to talk with these women because many of them, they come to Bowspring at that postpartum phase, and they had a conventional birth or maybe an unconventional birth, and there was some sort of trauma connected to it. But the conventional birth is interesting, as you know, and I think that your audience is really well aware of like going into the hospital, which God bless the hospital. There's definitely a time and a place. Thank you for those resources. And but working not with the body, and just trying to get baby out and taking different medications to do that, or maybe getting a what's the shot that they give women to numb
The
you?
epidural?
Yes, the epidural.
Mhm.
And then you're laying on your back, and then you're up in the stirrups, and sometimes that just really isn't the most supportive posture for a woman, and they experience a lot of trauma there. So that's been a lot of my clientele. And but I also think it's just like a disconnection from ourselves and our lack of ability to engage the glutes correctly. I think
Mm.
that is a huge reason. Those are the biggest reasons that I've come into contact. And I'm sure that there's more that I'll be learning about as I continue to share this work. What about you? Do you have any ideas of why it is that so many women are struggling with their pelvic floor?
Gosh, I feel like a lot of it, and I think that this is one of the things that we're going to talk about in a moment, is that the so you've talked about conventional birth, but then there's also like the conventional ways of quote healing the pelvic floor that I am not so sure are really working.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of this, especially I feel like for my crowd, like my listeners, it's not that they're not trying. Like they know something's wrong and they
Yeah.
want to fix it. And they've heard, okay, well, you've got to go see a pelvic floor therapist. And like, that's it. That's your only option. Maybe if it's super bad, like you have to have surgery and like,
Mhm.
like that's it. That's all we've got. And so I do wonder, and gosh, I'm not like hitting poorly on pelvic floor physical therapists or anything like that. I think there's such a wide variation of how they practice.
Yeah.
So, just like anything, I'm sure that there are some that are super effective at what they do, and then others who just, aren't so much.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, there's also like that level of I don't know, like you have to spend a lot of money if you're going to continually work with a pelvic floor physical therapist. And I don't know that every single mother has those resources, or I dare say that they don't have the resources to just like, I've got to go to, however many weeks of this therapy. And I'm not sure that I'm seeing these results. And, I've been doing the Kegels and I just don't see, the improvement yet. So I would say, from a physical perspective, I think that that's kind of what I've noticed. And to be fair, when after I had my first, that's what I experienced. I went to somebody, and I mean, super nice person, but I remember she had like an internal tool, so she would like watch my pelvic floor, like see what it was doing kind of on this monitor, and she would tell me, she was like, okay, now relax. And I was like, okay. And I would relax, and she was like, no, relax, like relax. And I'm like, okay, I relax, like
Mm-hmm.
like I was literally I was literally relaxing
Hmm.
as much as I possibly could. And now I'm like, oh, well, I had a hypertonic pelvic floor. Like that
Hmm.
was the problem. Those muscles were literally tightened to a place where they couldn't let go.
Oh, yeah.
And so, then my homework was like, okay, you need to go home and you need to practice relaxing your pelvic
Hmm.
floor.
Hmm.
So I did. I went home and I did the things that she said. I practiced relaxing. I remember just doing it over and over again, just relaxing and relaxing. And I went back and she was basically like, yeah, you didn't do it. You
Mm.
didn't do it. And it
Yeah.
was just like, I don't know what to do. Like
Mhm.
I am trying so hard and it's not helping. So yeah, I think that I'm probably not the only person that has had that experience. And so I, thinking then I didn't get to the root of the problems then. I
Mhm.
didn't get to the root of the problems after I had my second daughter. Truthfully, the thing that gave me massive results wildly quickly, and it's not like I'm saying this as a promise to anybody, but like truthfully what happened was I was a number of weeks pregnant with my third baby and I found Bowspring. And it
Mhm.
you weren't talking about this healing the pelvic floor then. Nobody was talking about that. It just I was feeling this heaviness, and I was, I think I was like 19 weeks pregnant, whatever. I thought there's no way that anything's going to be able to heal while I'm pregnant. I am just hopeful that, nothing's going to get worse. And what the heck, all of a sudden the heaviness disappeared. So clearly there is something to this.
Yeah. So much power there because also I interact with women who they want to see a physical therapist, but they're booked months out in advance, or they're
Mm,
a super far location. And so they're having to spend so much time in their car commuting. And I also think that what is so empowering about this movement practice is that we start to inner source here.
mhm,
Like it's up to us to show up for ourselves to these classes, to learn this new way of being and living in relationship with our body and moving in relationship with our body. And it is asking us to like I have the medicine.
mm,
What? The medicine exists inside of me, which is so paradigm shifting in this world of even alternative health, which I love resources. I love to be able to go to different therapists and massages, chiropractors, what have you. And it's a different kind of power when it for me to receive the medicine, it requires me to show up and invest the time and the energy towards myself to receive this. And just something really, really powerful, I think, energetically happens when we're like trusting our body. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't have to, like, sure, I turned on a video and I was receiving guidance because I don't know yet. But eventually, people do start to, after practicing for a while, you start to feel it intuitively and you're able to move more intuitively. With the hypertonic pelvic floor, this is so huge also. And because we are getting more narrow at the hips, women in general, from sitting, from not knowing how to engage our glutes, from the squeezing down and in, gripping and ripping it. That's what I like to say about it. And the lack of connection that we have there. Also, there's an energy maybe that somebody has experienced of like maybe they have a booty or wide hips, and it's like there's some shame there. There's like, ooh, like I don't want to attract unwanted attention. Like tuck it in. Like let me hide in myself. And this is a practice that invites us into this new reclamation of self and reclamation of the shape of our body and learning how to fill into our curves with a deeper trust. And that promises us so much health. So with hypertonic pelvic floor, oftentimes we're narrowing the hips, then we're told to relax. And those muscles, they're like holding on for freaking dear life because this is prime real estate. I am not going to let you down. I sense some sort of imbalance here and I've got you. That's one of the patterns. And so it's like when we invite the body into softening, filling the ribs, getting a deeper breath, and then opening the hips in these postures, it's just a new level of like, huh? Like we're literally opening the tissue
Mhm.
where it's been
Mhm.
held so tight. And that in and of itself is just very healing, very healing. So I'm
Mhm.
so glad that you got to experience that firsthand.
Yes, and I mean, you've already talked about how important fascia is,
Hmm.
and the thing that I love about this practice and why, when I think back, okay, well, why was I not able to relax on this exam table when this woman is telling me to relax, or even in my home when I was trying to practice? I guess
Hmm.
it wasn't working then either. Why wasn't I able to do it then? But then I was able to do it without even really trying to, while I was doing this new practice of Bowspring. And I think that the fascia is just so related to that because like you said, you're actually getting in there. Like you're actually manipulating the fascia, releasing it, reforming it.
Hmm.
That's why you can learn to release these muscles in a new way, is like all of the fascia, all the webbing around it is being softened, moved, reformed, reshaped. It
Hmm.
allows for those muscles to actually release for the first time ever, I'm sure, in some experiences.
Totally.
Mm. Wow. It's just like so exciting.
I know.
And
I feel you there.
so I mean, so we're talking about this while we're on the topic of a hypertonic pelvic floor.
Hmm.
One of the things that comes up time and time again that I was told that you hear over and over is the answer to your pelvic floor problems is Kegels.
Yeah.
We just you have to learn to, and sure, like you've got to incorporate all the muscles and do a Kegel. Like
Hmm.
whatever, however it's packaged, the idea is we need to tighten it and we need to clinch it. So why, Paris? I mean, I think that I already get a general sense of the answer, but like why is that just not going to cut it?
Yeah. Kegels are really interesting. They are isolating. So once again, we are taking an imbalance in the body and we're narrowing down on that and we're getting our microphone or our magnifying glass and we're like, okay, we're going to solve this by looking at this issue this place that has been so affected and we think is the root cause. And so we're leading from that approach, which is very limiting, and then we start to isolate these isolated muscles as we start to draw the energy from the yoni up and in, and we're just like doing these like lift ups, and that can create a ton of tension in the body. So if anybody who's listening to this is struggling with hypertonic pelvic floor, you're too tight, you've got to forget Kegels altogether. together. That is, anyone listening to this conversation, we can forget about Kegels altogether. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not lifting and engaging those muscles in an upward direction inside of a pulse, but the isolated muscle engagement is pretty old paradigm. If somebody is experiencing prolapse and has heard to do Kegels, once again, like it's not going to get us very far. And interestingly enough, it can create some hypertonic scenarios in the pelvic floor without even necessarily fixing the prolapse.
Hmm.
So it's an isolated approach and it is missing the bigger picture. So, why Bowspring is so valuable is that we're learning how to wake up all of the sleepy muscles in the body to support the wellness and the wholeness of the system. And a huge part of the conversation that is typically missing in pelvic floor conversations is the glutes. And the glutes are a big part of the pelvic floor that often are not described as part of the pelvic floor at most conversations. You won't hear the glutes as part of it, but they're huge. They play a really big role, especially when we begin to train our butt to go upward. Then it supports from the bottom of the pelvic bowl. We can think of the pelvic floor as a hammock, and it's like it's going laterally, and then it's always also going front to back, and then creates kind of this bowl shape. And the glutes are monumental because if we're engaging them correctly, then we're actually sending blood flow into the tissue in on the three layers of pelvic floor muscles. And typically we're taught to engage our glutes, as I'd mentioned before, down and in. Well, that narrows the pelvic floor and that narrows the whole hip region. And so we want to stay wide through the architecture of our bones while simultaneously then gently engaging the muscles universally 360 degrees to support the lift. Then what Bowspring does is with the glute engagement, then we start to breathe more consciously into the pelvic floor region. And it's through the breath that we can lift with the glutes lifting and find the whole pelvic floor just as a gentle lift, not just one isolated group of muscles, squeezing like Kegels recommend, what Kegels are. And so it's this full body approach. And that makes it so effective and very
Yeah.
unique and very freeing, because then somebody is healing their pelvic floor pain and they're like, oh my God, I don't have back pain either anymore right now.
Right.
Whoa, wild. Wait, I feel so much more confident in my expression and who it is that I am and what it is that I have to share. And I feel so much more confident to engage sexually
Mm.
and connect with my husband and connect with my partner. And just it's like this, it's like this really is like walking through a doorway of so much freedom. And that can really give our lives just so much more purpose and help us to feel so much more fulfilled.
So it's like someone might be thinking, I really want to do this because I really just want to stop peeing when I sneeze. But
Mhm.
actually, you're getting an entire life makeover when you sign up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Ugh. And one thing that I was thinking about just as you were kind of describing what happens with the pelvic floor, with the glutes while you are practicing Bowspring, I remember like when I think of the sensation of this, it's like there is just this beautiful, like expansive spreading of those muscles. Like
Mhm.
those muscles, like you can almost see it happening in your mind. You can absolutely feel it happening in your body. But it's like all of that tightness that's here together just kind of like opens up and like oh there is just such a level of freedom that comes with that. It just feels so good.
Feels so good. And then for the women who are struggling with the prolapse and feel like their insides are literally falling out of their bodies, this experience of defeat, of pain, of feeling so self-conscious, and then we naturally will tighten because we need to brace ourselves. Like I don't want them to fall out. Like this
Mhm.
isn't right. And so giving women permission to open inside of that, then that is going to offer the tone. And
Yeah.
all of this it revolves around reconnecting with the natural spring that lives in our tissues. When our tissues are springy, we have so much more vitality. We have so much
Mm.
more health, and we have so much more freedom in our movement. We've got to cultivate that spring. We've lost the spring in both on both sides of the spectrum.
Yes. Okay. So you're saying this is really a tissue nourishing practice as well. Like we're nourishing that tissue to become that springy, vital, life force filled substance.
Yes, fully.
It is
Hmm.
just so cool. It's
I
just so
know.
neat.
It's
There's
so
just
cool.
nothing like this.
I know. It's really unique. And I think we're at a place in our collective consciousness where like we're really ready to receive it. We're ready to do the work, invest the time to give this gift to ourselves that's
Mm.
translatable in every other place in our lives. So, what's really amazing about this practice is that we start on the mat, we start to learn these ideas, embody these ideas, connect with our pelvic floor, develop a new sense of safety and home in our bodies. And then we can take this posture, we're invited to take it into all of our activities, standing while you're in line at the grocery store, walking when you're at the park with
Mhm.
your baby, squatting down to pick up the laundry basket or reach in the cabinet for something that is really high above you. It's like you get to learn how to embody this in all that you do, and therefore all that you do becomes that much more infused with your presence, with who you are, and that is a gift to the world.
Yeah, there is definitely, I mean, I feel like spring is just the perfect word for it. There is
Mhm,
this springiness that comes along that you feel and experience in all of those scenarios that you're talking about, these day-to-day things of just tidying up the house,
mhm.
of just walking down the street. You can feel yourself engaging in these new springy, like bubbly, effervescent ways.
Yeah, and then
Mm.
everything that you do becomes healing.
Yes.
And you're
Oh,
like,
yeah.
"Oh, whoa, okay, cool. I was just did this walk with my husband, and like I knew how to walk in a way that I wasn't hyperextending my knees, that I wasn't striking my heels down or dropping my ribs or always looking down, because that is going to affect the pelvic, that's going to affect everything, definitely the state of the pelvic floor." And so now these activities are so freaking empowering because it's like they become that much more purposeful.
Mhm. Wow.
It's
So, one of the things that I have noticed is that there's something about storytelling. There's something about stories that just help people connect and understand more about any topic. And what I'm curious about is what are some of the stories that you have heard of, especially mothers, of course, who are wanting to heal their pelvic floor, prolapse, hypertonic pelvic floor, who came to Bowspring? What have you heard and what have you noticed?
Oh, I'm so touched by this opportunity to share, and I get emotional. So, because it's just so life changing. And so, I launched my Your Brilliant Body 2 years ago, and I've had the honor of serving hundreds of women. And in that online course, I mentioned pelvic floor health maybe like 3 times. It's not a focus. However, there's no getting around nourishing your pelvic floor with this movement practice. So, though it wasn't the focus, I'm getting all of these testimonials about how women have been impacted. So, one woman she was very reluctant to sign up and didn't know if she could do the financial investment, do it the time, and at that point was really nervous about moving forward because she had heard from her pelvic floor therapist and her doctor, you are at stage 4 prolapse. Physical therapy isn't going to help you anymore, and you're going to have to get surgery. By that time, she had been living with a pessary, so like a brace for the pelvic floor, which is, there might be a time and a place for sure. And I don't think it's a long-term solution. I know that there are other ways. And so she signs up for the course, and within 5 practices, she sends me a voice note crying. She's like, "Oh my God, I was going to the bathroom and I don't feel like my organs are going to fall out. And I feel," she didn't realize how numb she was there. And she had, and I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but she had 4 children at that point, and I think her youngest was maybe a year old, so she was still like in her recovery and embodying, just this new way of being and not knowing how to move forward with healing her pelvic floor. So she is like ecstatic. She just can't even, like, it's way too good to be true. Like, what 5 classes I have invested in this, and I can start to feel that there's energy in my pelvic floor, and I don't feel like it's falling out when I'm releasing, going to the bathroom, and I feel like I can lift it. I feel like there's a new energy of lift. So we were able to completely bypass surgery for her. She is living with a way profound new connection to her body and greater empowerment. Another woman, she had hypertonic pelvic floor, and she was a part of Your Brilliant Body. And she felt like she could actually like start to enjoy having sex with her husband, which at that point, my understanding was like it wasn't happening very often. She was really painful. It was really uncomfortable. Just this, it's so contracted. And so it developed this new level of intimacy with her partner and greater love that she's able to be in with
Mm.
her partner. And I, I just was so touched by these stories that I get, because I'm like, I didn't even talk about this in this
Mhm.
course. Like, it so blows my mind. And then I'm not surprised in this at the same time, because Bowspring is so incredibly healing. Yeah, I have a lot more. I write them down, and I have written out for this new course. I have a whole testimonials page. And, even from my YouTube offerings,
Mhm.
I've gotten people writing me, and again, I'm not mentioning the pelvic floor, but I'm just sharing this alignment. And have another woman was able to take her stage 4 into stage 2, and that was calculated by her doctor and or measured by her doctor. And so it's just like, uh, my teacher, Desi Springer, who I have the greatest love and respect for, of what a pioneer she is to be a channel for this practice and share it with so much wisdom and grace. She emphasizes all the time, she asks us to trust that our bodies are so much more liquid than we are solid. We have a
Mm.
tendency to think that we're so solid, and especially if we feel freaking tight or in pain, like that clenching, the bracing, the lack of connection, the numbing, we think that we're very solid in those states of being. And when we can remember that we're so liquid and that change is so possible, then we really invite ourselves to a completely new level of being. And I've always really resonated with that. And so in my practice, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so much more liquid. I'm not this solid thing. I have a form and there's structure there, but there's this balance between the two. And inside of the liquidity, we're able to reshape ourselves in an extraordinary way.
I love that, Paris. I
Yeah.
have never heard that before, and
Yeah.
that just resonates so deeply, and what an empowering feeling to think like, "Oh, no, I'm liquid.
Yeah.
I'm liquid. I can reshape. I can reform because I'm so liquid."
Yeah, I'm flexible. I can move with a little bit more, ease, and this the flexibility part. It's really, I think, beautiful wisdom for us all.
It truly is. One other question that I have, and you mentioned just now in one of these stories, this mom is, she's had 4 children, she's stage 4 prolapse. That seems like I have to imagine she felt really hopeless. That was just a state of hopelessness. What am I going to do? I imagine that there are people listening to this episode thinking, well, that sounds so great. However,
Mhm.
there's always the caveat of like why this may not work for me.
Mhm.
And a couple of or two of the caveats that I'm really thinking of is this may not work for me because I am currently pregnant. So
Mhm.
I just don't see how it's going to work because I have this baby growing on top of my pelvic floor. I don't think that healing is possible for me right now.
Mhm.
And then the other side of that is okay, someone listening would say, sure, that mom had a stage 4, she'd had 4 kids, she healed, that sounds great, but you know what? I had my last child 25 years ago. Like
Mhm.
I'm listening to this because I love birth stories, but this is not related to me because I'm in menopause. I'm beyond this, this period of vitality where things are happening in my pelvic floor. I don't think this will work for me. So, what would you say to anyone who is in that position of this sounds great, I don't think it's going to work for me because?
Yeah. I have compassion for everybody who is listening to this because we have to have a certain level of pain or, a disconnection or disappointing experiences in the past that have led us to believe to accept a belief that like I don't think this is going to work for me because nothing else has and I just have to
Mm,
live with this life sentence. So first of all, I just have so much compassion and I invite anybody who's listening to this into the realm of possibility that our bodies are made to always orient towards balance. And all we have to do is give them a little bit of a nudge. We're living in a pretty imbalanced way in a lot of different aspects, but one of them being our posture, our relationship to technology on our phones, like that's really impacting our posture. Our furniture is shaped to create a C curve, this posture of deflation. So I only mention these things because we're living in environments where it's difficult to find that balance. And and so, if we can just invite ourselves into, give ourselves a little bit of a doorway of willingness, if we do desire the healing, that is first and foremost. We have to desire it, we have to want it for ourselves. And then, if there is that willingness to try something new, I invite you to try this out because it's so different with the specific scenarios of like a mother who is pregnant listening to this. It is so incredibly healing and transformative for a woman who is pregnant, not only for her body and her physical frame, but her baby and the nerve and the energy that she's sending to her baby through her nervous system as she realigns her body and begins to take up space in her body in a new way. It will impact the birthing experience. And also, as you're pumping energy into your pelvic floor up the whole channel of the body, a springy tissue is way more resilient,
mhm,
so resilient. So it begins to stretch and it begins to so the healing time from birth is exponentialized from a woman who has been practicing Bowspring through her pregnancy or even a little bit at the end of the pregnancy. It's just a really powerful posture of intelligence. For a woman who is in her more mature years and experiencing prolapse, then I can't recommend this enough because if we're accepting the diagnosis of this is just something that I have to live with through my whole life and or I have to get a mesh surgery where they will install the mesh or wear a pessary my whole life, if we're subscribed to that, then that's the way it's going to be. That's
mm,
just the way that it's going to be. And if we have a glimmer of hope and a glimmer of willingness to understand the intelligence of our bodies and lean into that by trying something new and discovering new sensations in our body, then there is an opportunity for true amazement in moving through your more golden years, feeling that much more empowered and like you're not peeing your pants. I'll just say that the adult diaper industry is exploding.
mm,
It's exploding. And I have worked with clients 70 years old and have helped them greatly, inform their all of their sphincters and their muscles at the base of their spine to be working more for them. And so it's like we just gotta open our heart and to try something new and to realize that your body is really born to heal. We just have to give it the right environment. and say yes and get a little uncomfortable. I really think that it's valuable to know that this practice is so healing and it's going to take us out of our comfort zone in a really healthy way, because
Mhm.
sometimes our comfort zone, it creates the scenario of this deflated posture because it might feel more comfortable temporarily, but it's creating the situation in which these imbalances are flourishing. So it's a little uncomfortable to step outside of our comfort zone and do something new and open our minds to a new approach, but the juice is worth the squeeze.
Mm.
The juice
I
is
love it.
so worth the squeeze. Like the uncomfortableness, like, oh, but the juice and the reward that we get from it is one of the most freeing gifts that we can give ourselves.
Mm, amazing. It's so amazing. And one thing that I was thinking about as you were saying this was this idea of if we accept like, okay, like I just can't, like it's just, it's too far for me, I'm
Hmm.
too far gone, that invites even more of that, like that like breaking down,
Hmm.
that forward leaning posture, just the victim mentality of like, it's not for me, like, you
Yeah.
just like sink deeper into yourself in this like really heavy sad way, versus even if you're not trying it right this second, even if you haven't started a Bowspring course yet, just that idea of like, wait, just wait, what? Like
Hmm.
all of a sudden you feel your shoulders like kind of move upwards. Like you feel yourself start expanding in your body when you have this sense of hopefulness. Like,
Yeah.
could it really be what Paris is saying it is? Like
Yeah.
that alone begins to wake you up. Doesn't that tell you something? Like, doesn't that tell you like, wow, there's so much here?
So well said.
So I've loved hearing about this. I've loved learning about the pelvic floor and how Bowspring is connected to the pelvic floor. But my big question at this point is, what is it that you are doing to really make this accessible to others? Tell me about that.
Oh, yes. So I am launching a course specifically designed to take us through the pelvic floor journey and creating more harmony and balance through our pelvic floor. This next course that I'm launching will be focused on prolapse and healing prolapse. And then anybody who's listening to this, like if we want to do the online course where it's a more curated experience, you have access to working with me and a deeper conversation around pelvic floor health and this, the specific orientation in our movement for your pelvic floor. This is going to be such an amazing resource. And I am thrilled. I'm so thrilled to be offering it. Also, I really like to emphasize like, go to my YouTube channel. Like
Mm.
start practicing these free videos that are not oriented specifically for your pelvic floor, but there's no way that it can't touch it and to impact it. So I love offering people free resources, especially when it's like something really foreign and you don't really know how you're going to jive with it and how you're going to feel with it. I have amazing resources on my YouTube channel, and they are greatly therapeutic for the whole body, including the pelvic floor. And if you're wanting something more specific, then I would definitely encourage that you check out the Pelvic Floor Freedom course that I'm offering. Um, and that will be launching sometime soon.
And what is that breakdown going to look like? Like inside of the course, you're going to have
Mhm.
videos explaining Bowspring, I'm sure, connected to
Mhm.
the pelvic floor, I'm sure. Are there going to be classes that are involved as well?
Yeah, so you'll receive two recorded classes in each module that is released. So it's an 8-week program and two recorded classes, and then an opportunity to practice with me live each week. So there's 3 classes total, and you're not obligated to, you do you, boo. Like I'll have a recommendation, but you're checking in with your nervous system, you're checking in with how it feels to dose how many classes that are going to be really right for your healing experience. And I elaborate way more on that in my course. And then I'm sharing with you the Bowspring recipe that is so healing to the body, and also um, an opportunity to pick up a rebounding practice. So rebounding is incredibly healthy for the tissue. We're cultivating spring. We're wanting to cultivate spring. And so there will be a certain stage in the course where it's an option to add in rebounding if you're feeling these specific things. You're feeling a little bit more elasticity, a little bit more connection. You're not feeling like your insides are dropping out of your body every time. There is, it's a big course that is focused on like connecting to yourself. So like there will be some journaling exercises. I'm also going to be speaking about nutrition because I am a nutrition therapist, and food plays a really big role in the health of our tissues. And so just making sure that we're being hydrate, we're eating hydrating foods that aren't super inflammatory can be really helpful as well. Those are just going to be little glimpses of things. And if people want to work with me a little bit more to a deeper dive into what it is that they're experiencing, then there's going to be that optional add-on.
Mm, that is amazing. And I cannot recommend working with Paris, going to those live classes if
Mm-hmm.
at all possible. I just remember feeling like in your previous course that I took, that was so amazing for me. I loved being able to have you there working with me and being able to give cues to help me understand what my body, how my body could move. Like opening up these possibilities of, oh, actually you can move this way. Like, okay, now try moving this part this way. And just, oh, you're so good at diagnosing,
Mm-hmm.
the ways that people can move differently. So highly recommend, if you do join the course, making sure that you go to those lives if possible,
Mm-hmm.
because getting that feedback is just, oh, it changes so
It's
much.
gold. It's gold. And one of the biggest feedbacks that I get from people is like, well, am I doing it right? Because it
Hmm.
feels so different. And
Yes.
so it gives me an opportunity to get my eyes on my students and give them the personalized feedback to support their journey and to be like, oh, yes, okay, you are doing it right. You're doing great,
Mhm.
and that little validation can really be a boost to, support our journey.
Wow. Paris, I'm so excited. Like, I just feel so great about this. I love talking to you because you are so effervescent, so bubbly, so wonderful, and like deeply so. Not just this
Mhm.
external surface, like happy person, but just a genuinely beautiful, effervescent soul. You really do embody Bowspring. Like all the things that you're talking about, this soft, supple, joyful, bountiful, like that is who you are. That's who you are, Paris. Like it's amazing.
Receiving that from you, Caitlin, and that reflection, it really, really means the world. So just
Well,
thank you.
of course, it's what makes you such an incredible Bowspring teacher. I am so excited for this course. I'm so excited to be able to share this as an option for listeners who may have not heard it before. And I cannot
Mhm.
wait. I'm telling you, I cannot wait to hear the feedback from them. I know we're going to hear it. I know it's going to be beautiful. I know I'm going to be sharing about it. Paris, this is huge. All of the links are going to be in the bio for this, the link to the course, the link to your free YouTube, the link to your Instagram, because you post beautiful things there and you're just a joy to follow. Thank you, just from the bottom of my radiant heart to yours. Thank you,
I'm with you,
Paris.
sister. I'm so with you. And thank you, Caitlin, for being open to learning and to expanding your knowledge and to take this information and embody it so that you can truly receive the medicine that lives in you. Like you've had an experience with it because you decided to show up and then you were able to get results. And it's just like sharing with you and the people that you have sent to me has just been like one of the greatest honors of my life. Truly, like it fuels this inspiration. And like this is God's work that we're doing. And like I'm so joyful and I'm so grateful. And you're an incredible host. Like thank you so much for being such an incredible host and someone so fun to talk with. So all the love.
That means the world to me. Gosh. Oh, Paris. All right. Well, this is not the last time. We'll be doing this again soon. I am
Good.
so sure. Thank you, Paris, so much for coming on the Happy Home Birth podcast.
Thank you, Caitlin, for having me.
Wow. I cannot help but feel that for some of you, this episode has restored your hope. It's reignited a desire in you to support your body in healing, even if it's been burned in the past. Did you find yourself feeling ever so slightly lighter as you listened? I could feel myself lifting just from this conversation. As we head into this week's episode roundup, I want to just take a moment to reiterate my own healing experience with Bowspring. Now, as I mentioned in the episode, I've done a number of things to help heal my pelvic floor. Some I knew in the moment were not helping. Others I realized over time had not been what I had hoped for. And of course, there have been a few things that I've tried that have provided some amount of support, but maybe not full healing. I will never forget trying Bowspring while pregnant with my third child. My hope was that I could prevent any further sense of pressure that I was experiencing and the discomfort of that constant feeling of heaviness. I had high hopes that Bowspring could help stop the progression of symptoms. No part of me believed that it would provide relief to what I was already experiencing. So, can you imagine my shock when, after just a couple of classes, the heaviness I was feeling in my pelvic floor disappeared completely? Can you imagine the relief of just walking around day to day, not feeling like my body was betraying me? It was truly like experiencing my own little miracle. I am such a believer in this practice and in Paris as an educator. I am so excited that doors are currently open for pelvic floor freedom from now until July 14th. I will be participating in this course right alongside those who join, and I cannot wait to experience even more healing with those of you who are ready to get started. There is something so beautiful about healing with others on a similar journey. So, that's all I've got for you for today, and I'll see you back here next week. But I also hope that I will see you inside of the Pelvic Floor Freedom course. Click the link in the show notes to grab your spot. Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Are you looking to extend the home birth support, encouragement, and education? Join us in our Facebook group, Happy Home Birth Podcast Community, and check us out on Instagram at Happy Home Birth Podcast.